Hi guys, and welcome to another video from Technik. Today we're going to be showing you how to remove your steering wheel. This is from the Audi A6, S6 and RS6, the C5, Saloon and Avant models. So let's get started. Now obviously to actually remove the steering wheel itself you need to first remove the airbag. If you're unsure how to do that, we've recorded a video for that already. If you look below this video on YouTube, we'll have a link there for you for the airbag removal video. So if you're unsure how to do that, go down, check out that video, get your airbag removed, and then we can focus on getting the steering wheel off. Now, once the airbag's out of the way, this gives us access to this big bolt in the centre of the steering wheel right here, and this is what we're going to attack to get the steering wheel off. Now this is a size 12 M12. This is a spline bit, which is the 12 pointed bit. It's like a Torx, but it's got 12 points. Slightly specialist tool, but you can get little cheap packs of these for £4 or £5, and that kit will contain all the different various sizes that these come in. But you will need a size 12 spline bit to fit the centre of that bolt. Next up, before we try and turn this, what you want to do is remove your key and get the steering lock to kick in, because obviously if we try and turn that with the key still in the ignition, the whole steering wheel will want to turn. The steering lock will hold that into position to allow us to remove the nut. Okay, so this is now ready to be removed, but one thing to do is I'm going to remove this nut now. But whatever you do at this stage, you can remove that nut, but do not remove the steering wheel. It's one very important thing we've got to do before we can remove the steering wheel, but that's the main bolt there. So we'll put that to one side and I'll show you what to do next before we remove the wheel. So if we look very, very carefully at the end of the steering column here, we can kind of identify which part's the steering wheel and which part's the tip of the steering column. Now the steering wheel itself, you see it's got these very, very fine teeth around the outer edge. There, that's the steering wheel, and obviously this section in here, this is the end of the steering column. So the teeth there are the steering wheel, and this is the steering column. Now, as you can see, these teeth are really, really fine. So when you take the steering wheel off, you know, if it only had 5 or 6 of these notches, you could put it back on in exactly the same position dead easily. But because there's so many, if you just miss it 1 or 2 notches, you can be completely off centre. So what we want to do is we want to put a mark on the steering wheel and the steering column, so that we can when you come to refit your wheel, you can align those 2 marks to make sure you've put it back on in exactly the same position that you've removed it. Now on some steering wheels, not on this particular one, you'll have a little like a little dent, an indentation, which is a marker for dead centre. This one does not have that, so I can't use that on the steering wheel. Yours might well have one. If it has, that's great, and then you can just put a mark on the just on the steering column. You don't need to do it on the wheel. I've got no factory mark here, so I'm going to have to mark them both. So let's do that next. So you've got a very, very fine kind of permanent marker or something similar, like that. What I've done there is I've marked the approximately the centre of the steering wheel. And what I'm going to do, I need to put my head directly in front of it again, make sure I get this 100%. I'm going to mark the end of the steering column as well. So if you have a quick look at what we've done there, we've got a mark on both the steering wheel and the steering column. So when we come to refit the steering wheel, all we've got to do is align those 2 marks, and we know we're putting it back on in exactly the same position as it was when we removed it. So let's look at getting it removed. So the next thing we need to do before we can remove the wheel is have a look at the electrical connections. You see these plugs in here. These aren't actually plugging into the steering wheel itself. These are actually plugged into the clock spring, or the squib, which is behind the steering wheel. You can see this kind of big metal cutout around the steering wheel there. That's where the steering wheel ends, and the clock spring is where these plugs are going into. Your electrical connections may vary a little bit depending on what options you have fitted to your car. I think what I'm going to do on this one you just pull this one out. You see it's actually an electrical connector in there. I'm just going to disconnect that there and leave that connected to the clock spring for the moment. And I'm going to disconnect the airbag connector here. It's got two little ears on it. You squeeze those and pull that forward, and that'll come out with the steering wheel, like so. So we're ready to remove. So to remove the steering wheel, just remember if you've left this one connected, just be careful to feed that through the hole carefully. Make sure you're happy with your marks, and then all you do is give it a bit of a wobble forward, and the whole steering wheel will come forward like so. I'm just going to feed that cable out of the back of the hole, and there you go. As we can see, there's the hole that I mentioned that passes through to the clock spring, and here's the clock spring right here. And as you can see there, that is your steering wheel removed from the car and ready to go.